Revenge. It's one of those emotions that we think we could never fall prey to. Until something happens that cuts deep and suddenly we're plotting our own personal vengeance. It's primal, it's instinctual, and sometimes it can feel...
This is Sparta!
Good. I mean, imagine this. Your ex, who's also the leader of an assassin group, crashes your wedding ceremony, unalives everyone in there except for you. I mean, you do get a bullet put through your head, him knowing that you're pregnant. But you survive and you wake up in a coma and your baby is gone. Do you just continue on with life after all that, like nothing happened? No, of course not. Isn't it only normal to retaliate? So why do we love revenge? Revenge offers a powerful sense of justice or retribution. It taps into deep emotions like anger, humiliation, and betrayal. When we feel wrong, especially if that wrong is significant or personal, we can feel powerless and vulnerable. Revenge offers a way to reclaim that power. The idea of getting back at someone that hurt us can feel relieving and a way of restoring balance. To understand our obsession with revenge, we need to look at something much older than movies or even human society: our biology. Evolutionary psychologists argue that revenge might actually be hardwired into our DNA. In the animal kingdom, retaliation serves as a survival mechanism, a way to deter predators or rivals from taking advantage of you. It's an eye for an eye, and it's as old as humanity itself. Stories, whether in literature or film, frequently glorify revenge, portraying it as a heroic or justified act that restores one's dignity or gives satisfaction. These portrayals often frame revenge as righteous, making it feel justified and even virtuous in certain contexts. There's a psychological pull to want to emulate that kind of narrative. So why is revenge so satisfying, even though we know it's destructive? Psychologically, revenge gives us a sense of power, a rare moment where we can reassert control over a situation that made us feel hopeless. When someone wrongs us, we feel violated and the world just seems out of balance. Revenge promises to restore that balance, even if it's just in our minds. In the early 2000s, a group of Swiss researchers scanned the brains of people who had been wronged during an economic exchange game. These people had trusted their partners to split a pot of money with them, only to find out that their partners had chosen to keep the money for themselves. The researchers then gave the people a chance to punish their greedy partners, and for a full minute as the victims contemplated revenge, the activity in their brains was recorded. The decision caused a rush of neural activity in the caudate nucleus, which is an area of the brain known to process rewards. So when we picture people who wronged us getting what they deserved, it's like eating our favorite snack or our team winning the national championship game.
Revenge. Just the word creates a chemical and metabolic reaction that is palpable in most people. Our heart rate goes up. We actually salivate, believe it or not, when we think of taking revenge. There's a reason why we love the idea of revenge, because everyone has been wronged.
Just as participating in revenge activates your reward systems in your brain, so does reading it, watching it, or even playing it.
I'm vengeance.
Revenge is a powerful theme in popular culture, often used to explore complex emotions like anger, betrayal, justice, and morality. Revenge can serve as both the plot device and the character motivation. I remember reading The Count of Monte Cristo in high school, and I just found out that it is one of the most iconic revenge stories ever. The protagonist, Edmond Dantes, is falsely imprisoned and spends years plotting revenge on those who betrayed him. This classic novel explores the destructive power of revenge and the moral cost of seeking retribution. Now, this film series is so iconic that I feel like I should just mention it, even though I don't think I've seen every single movie. But John Wick. John Wick is a retired hitman seeking vengeance after the death of his beloved dog, which was a final gift from his deceased wife. The simple yet intense motivation behind his revenge drives a high-octane action narrative that has captivated audiences for its stylish choreography
People keep asking
and
if
emotional
I'm back,
core.
and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
This game was actually highlighted in one of my previous videos, but God of War. The God of War series follows Kratos, a man driven by revenge against the gods who betrayed him. The early games focus heavily on his desire for vengeance, but later entries like God of War 2018 delve into the consequences of his actions and the cost of revenge, both for him and those around him. Despite the satisfaction that revenge may provide in the short term, stories across genres typically suggest that its long-term effects are far more complex and dangerous. Take The Revenant, for example. The protagonist, Hugh Glass, is attacked by a bear and he almost dies, and his companions leave him there to die. But surprisingly, Glass survives, and his primary motivation throughout the whole film is to get revenge on the companion that left him. This drive for revenge is what propels Glass through the brutal conditions of the wilderness, pushing him to endure extreme hardships such as frostbite, hunger, and constant physical pain. Hugh Glass had a broken leg on the brink of starvation, and he kept driving through the wilderness for revenge. But in the final moments of the film, Glass comes face to face with the companion, and instead of killing him immediately, he chooses to let nature take its course, which was him basically just letting somebody else kill him. But that signal in the movie that revenge alone was not a sufficient resolution to his suffering. Gladiator is another great example that the feelings you get from revenge are short-term. Revenge doesn't bring the characters peace or a restored sense of justice. Instead, it's a tragic and fleeting form of resolution that leaves him with little to live for. Revenge has a complex impact on society, often leading to cycles of violence, emotional harm, and societal division. While the desire for revenge is a human impulse, it tends to perpetuate conflict rather than resolve it. Think about gang violence. When someone seeks revenge, it often leads to a cycle of retaliation. One act of revenge prompts another, creating an ongoing feud or conflict that can be passed down through generations. Also, when someone takes the matters into their own hands through revenge, it undermines the legal system, potentially leading to injustice. Now, is revenge and justice the same thing? Short answer, no.
Justice and vengeance. They think they are two words for roughly the same thing. They are nothing of the kind. Vengeance is an I-thou relationship. I have attacked you, so you attack me. Or I attack your family, so you attack my family. Vengeance is the Montagues and the Capulets, or the Corleones and the Tartaglias. It's my group against yours. That is revenge. Justice says that it is no longer me against you. It is both of us equally under the impartial verdict of the law. Justice takes the whole thing out of an I-thou relationship and elevates it to a completely impartial viewpoint in which we all stand equally under judgment.
Revenge-driven conflicts can divert resources, energy, and attention away from societal progress. While revenge may feel like a form of justice or a means of regaining control, its broader societal consequences are typically harmful. Societies that can prioritize forgiveness and conflict resolution tend to be more stable, peaceful, and prosperous in the long run. From a Christian perspective, revenge is generally discouraged. The Bible teaches that vengeance belongs to God, not to humans. In Romans chapter 12:19, Paul writes, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay,' says the Lord." The idea is that God is the ultimate judge, and we should trust Him to right wrongs rather than taking matters into our own hands. On the evening of June 17th, 2015, a mass shooter took the lives of 9 African American people at a Bible study at Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina. And instead of taking revenge, they chose forgiveness.
We have to forgive.
Just 2 days after losing their loved ones, family members said they forgave the shooter.
And I forgive you.
But may God have mercy on you.
How hard were those words?
It wasn't hard at all. I had some other things to say to go with it, but someone behind me started crying. What people don't know is that there was a silence in that room. It felt so serene in that room. There was a calmness in that room. Me and Miss Foley watched my son take his last breath. But for me to be kneeling right over him and looking at how beautiful he was, and he seemed like he was at peace.
Polly describes a light in the room that seemed almost spiritual.
Forgiveness is a superpower. I can live my life, and I realize it's for me, not just for the other person.
Those words flowing over students at High Point Academy.
Feels like it was yesterday, but I call it the unthinkable adversity. Losing my mom in a racially motivated mass shooting on June 17, 2015 has sparked me to do what I do now.
Instead of seeking revenge, Christians are encouraged to show love, forgiveness, and mercy even to those who have wronged them. Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." This doesn't mean letting people walk all over you or condoning their bad behavior, but it calls for a heart that desires reunion rather than retaliation. Forgiveness is central in Christian ethics. Jesus modeled forgiveness throughout his life. Even on the cross, he prayed for those who crucified him, saying, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." In essence, the Christian response to wrongs is not about getting even, but extending grace and trusting God to handle justice in his way and timing. Now let's talk a little bit more about the consequences. Holding on to desire for revenge can create long-lasting anger, bitterness, and resentment. These emotions can become overwhelming and prevent a person from healing or moving forward. It often results in a vicious cycle of negativity. In some cases, seeking revenge can lead to legal consequences, especially if it involves violence or illegal activities. This can result in fines, jail time, or a criminal record, further complicating life. While revenge may feel good in the moment, the effects are rarely lasting. Studies show that the initial rush of satisfaction that we receive from revenge often fades quickly, leaving us with feelings of emptiness or guilt. In other words, the moment we get the revenge we crave, the satisfaction evaporates, leaving us right back where we started. I've said powerful so much, but revenge is a powerful force. It's a lens through which we view our darkest emotions, our desires for justice, and our need for closure. But perhaps in the end, the love of revenge isn't about the satisfaction it brings. It's about the way it allows us to confront the things we don't always know how to face. The brokenness of life, the injustice, and the pain. Revenge alone might not be about making things right. It's about understanding that some wrongs can never truly be fixed. And that's probably the greatest tragedy of all.